Have you ever wondered why Africa, one of the richest continents in natural resources, remains one of the poorest in terms of living standards? Why do countries in Europe and the United States continue to scramble for Africa's diamonds, cobalt, oil, and gold, even long after colonialism officially ended? Africa is often called the richest poor continent. On paper, it has everything: the largest reserves of cobalt, vast oil fields, fertile farmland, and precious stones that glitter in jewelry stores worldwide. Yet, when you look at GDP per capita, education, healthcare, or infrastructure, Africa ranks among the lowest globally. This paradox is no accident. It is the result of centuries of extraction, first through colonialism, and now through what many call neocolonialism. The West, Europe and the United States, remains deeply invested in Africa, not for charity, not for partnership, but largely for strategic and economic control over resources. The story begins in the late 19th century during the infamous Scramble for Africa. At the Berlin Conference of 1884 and 1885, European powers divided Africa like a cake, with no regard for the people living there. Why? You know, to control land, resources, and labor. Belgium took the Congo for its rubber, ivory, and minerals. Britain claimed South Africa, Zimbabwe, and Nigeria for gold, diamonds, and oil. France controlled West Africa, rich in cocoa, cotton, and uranium. Colonialism wasn't about development, it was about extraction. Railways, ports, and roads weren't built to connect Africans. They were built to move raw materials to Europe. By the mid-20th century, most African nations gained independence. But the resource game didn't stop. It simply changed shape. So what exactly does Africa have that the West still needs? The list is staggering. The Democratic Republic of Congo supplies about 70% of the world's cobalt, critical for lithium-ion batteries in smartphones, laptops, and electric cars. Without Congo's cobalt, the tech industry would collapse. Coltan, used in electronics, is also heavily mined there. South Africa holds the world's largest reserves of platinum and palladium, essential for car manufacturing. Africa is also rich in precious metals and stones. South Africa, Ghana, and Mali are among the top gold producers. Botswana, Namibia, and Sierra Leone supply diamonds that end up in Western jewelry stores. When it comes to energy, Nigeria, Angola, Libya, and Algeria are major oil exporters. And Western energy companies like Shell, ExxonMobil, and Total Energies dominate the market. Niger provides uranium that powers French nuclear plants. And then there's agriculture. Côte d'Ivoire and Ghana grow more than 60% of the world's cocoa beans. Yet farmers often live on less than $1 a day. Africa also supplies timber, cotton, coffee, and has vast tracts of fertile farmland. These resources power Western luxury, technology, and industry. But the system of control has shifted from colonialism to neocolonialism. Multinational corporations dominate mining, oil, and agriculture, sending profits abroad while local communities remain poor. International institutions like the IMF and World Bank often impose conditions that force African countries to privatize industries and open markets, benefiting foreign investors. The United States runs AFRICOM, with military bases across the continent, and France has long stationed troops in West Africa to secure uranium and oil interests. Trade agreements lock Africa into exporting raw materials and importing finished goods, keeping the wealth in Western hands. This ensures Africa remains a supplier, not a producer. And just when it seemed the game was set, a new competitor arrived: China. Through its Belt and Road Initiative, China has built roads, railways, and ports across Africa. In exchange, it secures long-term access to minerals and energy. This creates a new dynamic. The United States and Europe accuse China of colonial behavior, even though they've practiced it for centuries. African leaders, meanwhile, often try to balance relationships, sometimes playing powers against each other to secure better deals. But the core pattern remains. Africa is still the battlefield for resource control. So why does the West still want Africa's resources? Energy security is one reason. Oil and uranium reduce dependence on the Middle East or Russia. Technological dominance is another. Cobalt, coltan, copper, and rare minerals are essential for electronics, renewable energy, and electric vehicles. Then there's strategic rivalry. Controlling Africa limits China's rise and maintains Western global influence. And of course, there's profit. Africa's resources are cheaper to extract thanks to weak regulations, corruption, and global demand. But there is a human cost. While billions of dollars worth of resources leave the continent, ordinary Africans often see little benefit. Miners work in dangerous conditions for poverty wages. Oil spills destroy farmland and fishing waters. Communities are displaced to make room for mining projects. Resource wealth fuels corruption and even civil wars, the so-called resource curse. Africa is rich, but Africans remain poor. The big question now is whether Africa will remain trapped in this cycle or finally turn its resource wealth into prosperity. There are signs of hope. The African Union pushes for greater unity and negotiating power. Countries like Botswana have shown it's possible to manage diamonds responsibly, reinvesting profits into education and health. And there's growing awareness among young Africans that they must take control of their resources, not just for today, but for generations to come. If Africa can move up the value chain, refining, processing, and manufacturing its own raw materials, it could break free from dependency. But that means resisting the pressures of Western corporations, Chinese investment traps, and internal corruption. Africa remains the beating heart of the global economy, from the diamond on a wedding ring, to the cobalt in your smartphone, to the uranium powering European cities. Africa fuels the world. But the real question is this: will Africa continue to be exploited? Or will Africans rise to claim ownership of their own wealth? The future is uncertain, but one thing is clear. What happens in Africa doesn't stay in Africa. It shapes the destiny of the entire world. If this video opened your eyes to the real story behind Africa's resources and why the West still wants them, then don't keep it to yourself. Hit that like button so more people see it, share it with your friends, and let's get the conversation going in the comments. Do you believe Africa can finally turn its resource wealth into prosperity? Or will outside powers continue to dominate? I'd love to hear your thoughts below. And if you want to dive deeper into the forces shaping our world, history, power, and the future we're all walking into, make sure you subscribe to the New World Playbook and ring the notification bell. Together, we're building a community that looks beyond the headlines to uncover the truth about the world we live in. So like, share, comment, and subscribe, because the playbook of tomorrow starts here.